Welcome to the Building PA Podcast, the voice of the construction industry throughout Pennsylvania. Here are your co-hosts, Chris Martin and John O'Brien.
Hello, and welcome to the Building PA Podcast. I am co-host John O'Brien from the Keystone Contractors Association, joined as always by fellow co-host Chris Martin, checking in from good old Pittsburgh. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, John, how are you? It's a lovely winter day in Pittsburgh, gray and rainy, and actually it's snowing today, so it's just what you expect every day, right? It's awesome. But here we are, right? And we're staying warm and having our fun, having a good podcast talk. But hi, everyone. My name is Chris Martin. I am president of Atlas Marketing, and we tell stories for companies that build things. So, John, let's dive into it. We got a good one.
Let's dive right in. So let me start off with a little story. You know, a plumber and a Marine walk into a bar. Oh, just joking. That's bar. No, but we do have a famous plumber and a famous Marine on the show here. We always talk policy. Well, not always, but, policy comes up on our podcast from time to time. And who better to talk about construction policy in the state of Pennsylvania than the Senate Labor and Industry Committee chairs, Devlin Robinson out of the Pittsburgh area and John Kane out of the Philadelphia area. We have the top two leading state senators. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today.
More than welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You bet. And my reference to the Marine and plumber, in case our listeners don't know, Senator Robinson is a U.S. Marine veteran. Thank you for your service, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And Senator Kane is Plumbers Local 690 past business manager. Thank you for your service, unclogging those lines. And
yeah, be careful there.
And I did a very good job at it.
That's good.
Yes. No, but you guys are awesome to the industry. You're great to the construction industry. I mean, last year, not just last year, the past few years, we do the Construction Opioid Awareness Week. And you guys are very supportive of our industry, and awesome to have you on our team on the industry side. And we just can't thank you enough. So we thought we'd bring you on the show and pick your brain, talk a little policy. What's going on with the Senate committee this session?
All right.
I think that we have a pretty.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I think we have a pretty exciting session. I think that we got a lot done. In the last legislative session, we had 21 bills reported out of committee. A lot of them were very focused on tightening up some laws throughout the Commonwealth and really putting Pennsylvania on a competitive edge to make sure that we're able to grow these good-paying, family-sustaining jobs. Throughout the Commonwealth.
And I'd like to
great work.
I'd just like to echo some of my thoughts there too. I agree with Senator Robinson 100%. There's nothing that makes me more proud than being able to be on the Labor and Industry board or committee, and also being the co-chair. Coming from the labor background, knowing a little bit about the industry, seeing what's happened over the past years as the business manager of that union, and seeing some of the issues that pertain to, labor issues throughout the state of Pennsylvania. And Devlin and I, we work well together. I appreciate the Keystone Contractors Association for having us on this podcast. I'm glad it's a podcast because my good friend Devlin Robinson here, he's got a face for radio.
That's right.
And clearly you guys have worked together and know each other well, right? I mean, come on.
we have a lot of mutual friends. So, we both got sworn in together at the same time. So,
that's right.
And it was great to find out that Devlin was going to be the chairman of the Labor and Industry Committee. And then I got brought on to the co-chair. I couldn't be prouder. And I enjoy working with Devlin. We have a lot of friends and we get along. We have the same type of a, personality. We know we can have fun, but then again, we can work hard. Our staffs get along very well together. So I'm extremely proud to work with Devlin.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a great 2 years, and looking forward to another 2 years of working together with John.
I agree.
Well, gentlemen, what are some of the things that you anticipate coming up? I know before we started recording, Senator Kane mentioned that you guys are going back into session here in a couple weeks. What are some trends that you're looking for from your perspective as it relates to the industry?
Yeah, so we're really hoping, like I said, we're trying to tighten up a lot of the existing laws that are already on the books, so that we can close some of these loopholes. My friend Senator Kane, he has the workplace misclassification bill that we would like to tighten that aspect of the industry up a little bit to make sure that, like I said, that Pennsylvania is a competitive place for workers to work and to and make sure that it's a safe environment. So we're looking forward to that. That should be moving fairly quickly. We're also looking to pass a licensure bill for electricians throughout the state. We license everybody from barbers to the hot dog vendors on the street corner. So I think that somebody that is wiring your house should be licensed as well.
And some of the things that we're going to move forward with is the resolution that you guys had requested about the opioid awareness. That was near and dear to my heart before I even got into the Senate. Being the head of a medium-sized local that represented about 1,800 members, the opioid epidemic, hit hard. Going back when I got elected in 2007 to when I retired in 2020, I had 22 of my members overdose and die because of the opioid epidemic out there. So, bringing that up, and, I know that we met, I guess, the Keystone Contractors Association. We had the PA Opioid Construction Summit in Harrisburg last year, and meeting with Dr. John Gall, it really touched my heart because the man's, he was a carpenter from out in Missouri, and we got to speak a little bit about it. And, mine was mostly about opioids, but his got more into about, head trauma. His son was a football player, soccer player, ended up, died from suicide. And I still wear, the little bracelet that John had gave me that day from meeting him there. These are things that really affect a lot of the construction workers that not many people understand. Construction's you're always working every day yourself out of a job. So that was always the biggest problem, is that, eventually that job's going to end. And, sometimes there's a lull in construction where you may be out of work for a long period of time, where your neighbors are getting up and going to work in the morning, and here you're sitting at home making phone calls, trying to get a job from your contractors. So it can be difficult from time to time. And it can be a mental drain when you got a wife and a bunch of kids at home, and you got people constantly saying, why don't you get a job doing something different? And, construction was always my favorite, but I know what it was like to be out of work for a long period of time, and it does beat up on you after a while. So I appreciate the fact that, Keystone Contractors Association wanted to put something like that together to make awareness out there. But there are things that we're going to continue moving with, that I see in the future. Devlin had also, Senator Robinson mentioned, the off-site fabrication. And the construction industry is constantly changing, and it's, you got not long ago in the city of Philadelphia where Hump developed the pavilion down there, which was like a $1.5 billion project. And the majority of that project was modular, done off-site. And I can recall they wanted to do it elsewhere, out of state. And I was like, scratching my head. It doesn't make sense. Their codes down in Maryland aren't the same codes as the city of Philadelphia. You have to be a required licensed plumber. So, these off-site fabrications, that was why it was a real big deal for me, to make sure that we get the, prevailing wage on that type of work. And I'm glad that, Senator Robinson agrees with me on that also.
Yeah. Here's a story I think you'll appreciate, both of you will appreciate, and especially Senator Kane with your background. Just today, just about an hour ago, I left a meeting. It's real estate developers in the Harrisburg area. They said, we keep hearing about resolutions and articles about construction worker addiction rates and suicide rates, and you hold these press conferences with a resolution, whatever, and we see it in the newsletter. And this is the developers. This is the group that you think they just want to go to the next project. They don't really think much about the construction worker. That's kind of what some people think, not myself, whatever. But they came to us and they said, we'd like to hold a discussion on this. So I facilitated a discussion with some other safety directors, and we talked about mental health awareness and suicide prevention for construction workers. And I'm just sitting there thinking, 5, 10, last year for that matter, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, would you see a room full of real estate commercial developers worrying about construction workers?
No.
And that's credit to you guys for leaders like that to take 2, 5, 10 minutes in session just to spend time talking about important issues. It's awesome. Good stuff to see it play out in action in the community. So thank you.
Well, it's people like Devlin Robinson and myself, pushing for it. We also have, a couple people that are in the Senate that are in recovery, including myself. Just celebrated 41 years in sobriety. So, I know firsthand. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
I know firsthand what it's like to go through an addiction, and the thought of it, going back out and drinking or getting myself into trouble is right around the corner at any time. And, there's so many people that are out there that are struggling with it, especially in the construction industry.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of work with suicide prevention in the veteran community for a number of years. And the biggest issue that you have to tackle is to, break down that stigma. And you want people to come out and say that, I think I do have a problem. The more, especially in, the veteran community and the construction community, it's the same. We're tough. I can handle it.
Yeah.
I just keep going. And that's when you want to make sure that they feel comfortable to say, hey, wait a minute. I don't know if this is really, I'm in the best state of mind right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And I know we've had guests that have talked about this, from addiction, suicide prevention, and mental health. And one of the things that always strikes me is how that stigma is the first thing that we talk about. Is we need to continually hammer that and get that down, because of the fact that most people are like, I'm fine.
mm-hmm.
I'm fine. You hear that so often, and I'm sure it's the same thing in the halls in Harrisburg, as well as job sites throughout the country and the state. How do you guys handle that? Like from a leadership perspective, such as yourselves, how do you try to, beyond the bills and the programs, are there anything else that you guys are working on that can help to pull that stigma down?
Well,
I know that's a loaded question too.
No, it's I know in the Philadelphia area, because that's where I pretty much, cover. I know years ago we started a program. It was a peer advocacy program. And a lot of times it was a person came up to me knowing that I already had a drinking problem, already know that I was in the newspaper for a DUI, and a high-speed chase on a motorcycle. A month before that, I was in disorderly conduct making the newspaper again. And the guy's like, man, it's like, it seems like you're getting yourself into trouble an awful lot. And I go, that's only because I'm drinking. I said, when I'm not drinking, I'm a good guy. And he goes, do you ever think about not drinking? Now, unbeknownst to me, 41 years later, you got the Philadelphia building trades that are out there talking about peer advocacy. People like me that are on construction sites talking to individuals that may end up having anxiety issue, depression issues, or an opioid issue. We know who they are. The guys that are coming in late every day or taking off Fridays or taking off Mondays. There's a problem there. You got to address it. Or let them know, you got a little sticker on your hard hat, basically let them know you're a peer advocate, that they can come to talk to you and everything will be held confidential, whether you want help or not. At least you can talk to somebody. I mean, it all starts there. It really does. People have to want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue. That's part of tearing down the stigmas, making sure that, you're able to seek help and not have retribution come upon you. That was, again, in the veteran community, if you said that you were having these mental health issues for the longest time, you were taken off the battlefield. You were taken away from your unit, and that was viewed as a punishment. And so people were not seeking the help that they needed. So it's the same thing in the construction trades. We have to make sure that we're establishing a safe environment as well. So we want to make sure that you're getting the help that you need, and that there's somebody there that's understanding and not judging you and looking to implement a punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long gone are the days of just rub some dirt in it.
Yeah. Toughen up.
Yeah.
Toughen up. I used to hear it all the time. But there's always somebody in the Senate or in the House that's an elected official that knows somebody that's either struggling with the three things. It's either alcoholism, drug abuse. You got people that are dealing with anxiety or depression. We all know somebody. We all know somebody that's, in addiction or recovery, or somebody that, attempted suicide or completed suicide. So when we do get up on the floor, we do mention it, we do talk about it. Sometimes we don't see a dry eye in the whole place, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, it's noticed, it's appreciated, and like you said, bringing down the stigma helps. So every little bit helps.
Sure it does.
So can we switch gears a little bit here?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, all right. This day and age, it's heated political talks. You got this side yelling at that side, and vice versa. It goes on and on. As leaders of legislators, how do you keep the peace? How do you keep focused on the mission? And it's everywhere, I'm guessing, in session and your voters, your district. How do you, as leaders, move forward in this climate?
I could just say, we have to have a goal in mind whenever you're, negotiating. I trust that John Kane wants what's best for his constituents and for Pennsylvania in the whole. I know that. We've been working together for 4 years, going on 5 years. So, I know that, his political views are not malicious. And that's where, we're able to start the negotiations. We're able to start a lot of our meetings on that foot. So, we disagree on some things, but, as we keep talking and keep negotiating, we find that we actually agree on a lot more than we disagree. So that's where, we keep moving forward that way.
And I agree with, Senator Robinson 100% on that. I always think back of, back in my days in negotiating, that we need to partner. If you don't partner, you're just going to be fighting all the time. And, a lot of times I always think back at that, I have enough enemies out there. I don't need any more. So it's better to work with somebody. We can have our disagreements, but when it comes down to it, if it's the best for, my constituents and the area that I represent, I'm going to do whatever I have to do, whether if I have to work with the other side of the aisle. I know being in the minority, it's going to be extremely difficult for me to get a bill passed. So why wouldn't I work with the other side of the aisle if I have a good bill that's sitting there? If I know it can get passed because, their name's on it, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. Uh, that's pretty much how I've been getting through this. I don't care who you are on the other side of the aisle. If you want to talk to me about certain things that I may know, I'd be happy to share, some of my thoughts. Oh, Devlin and I think, we're kind of like blue collar elected officials. I think we need to have more people like that in the Senate. Some people that are, our roots are, in the labor industry. We care about hard working middle class people or bringing people up from the lower income to the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to that point, and first off, it's very refreshing to hear both of you talking through this process. So thank you for that. But the aspect of getting other folks that share your same mentality, do you find it difficult to even say, hey, maybe you should get involved in this, like from a political standpoint, or is there an office or a committee that you can get people involved with? Like, do you find that people are open to doing that, or are people running like currently, running from that like it's the plague?
If you don't mind, I'll speak a little bit on it. When I talk to people on my side of the aisle, sometimes their thoughts may be on a specific issue that is near and dear to their heart, and that's all they have their mind set on. They may not want to, have conversations about certain things that I believe in the construction industry. We have our environmentalists. I came from, as a plumber, I was a gas fitter. So when you talk about gas industry,
Yeah.
it is a tough road to hoe there. I end up, they understand they're great paying jobs, but they also worry about the environment. And I always tell them, I said, listen, I hold, my contractors back in the day, I hold my members accountable as I would hold these, big corporations that are going to be coming in. You hold them accountable. These are good paying jobs out there. I don't want to see them to go to Virginia, to Jersey, to Delaware. I want them in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. We have a Senate dining hall that's attached to the Senate where, we're able to just kind of break away from the floor, get away from the cameras and everything. And you sit down and you just share a meal together. And a lot of it, a lot of the conversations is about some of the bills that we have coming up. And back there, only senators are allowed back there. And you're able to brush away all the outside noise and actually talk about what the purpose of a lot of these bills are and what the actual essence of the bill are. And I find that to be pretty helpful to reach across the aisle and gain a lot of bipartisan success that we've had over the years.
Yeah.
Good. A little behind the
100%
scenes
right.
peek, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is nice.
I like that.
Oh, it's actually a good place to meet because like Senator Robinson said, you're out in the limelight. You're not on the floor. You're not in front of the cameras. You're in the back room. A couple of you to get back there, start eating, kind of, talk about how great the Eagles are doing and how bad, the Steelers are doing, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of have some fun, how great the Phillies are doing and the Pirates still don't have a team. So, I mean,
and we
it's
count
tough.
how many Super Bowls we have and how they've all been different. And, the Eagles are like, yeah, that second one was really exciting.
You know what
I was like, yeah, we had that before I was even born.
I love you haven't even brought up the Penguins and the Flyers yet, so that's a whole other thing.
Oh. No, we're still rebuilding with the Flyers. We've been rebuilding, I think, for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Just like the Pirates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. So what advice would you guys have to a construction, we'll do it too. Here's two questions there. What advice would you have? Because it might differ. It probably won't, but for a construction company owner that has policy concerns or issues, and then a construction worker, what advice would you give when they hear a piece of legislation is proposed or moving? Like, what should they do? You know, any good or bad lessons learned as far as communicating with you guys? And
first, call me. Just let me know. Just let me know. I mean, like we just said that we talk on both sides of the aisle. We want to hear from stakeholders as well. I talk to a lot of people that their immediate knee-jerk reaction is to start, getting petitions signed and going on social media and things like that. Just give us a call. Let us know why that certain bills aren't advantageous to your industry. And maybe there's something, if there's a sentence or two, if there's something that we can tweak, we'd love to look at it. If you have any suggestions, we're always open to those suggestions. So, I have a whole staff that's willing to meet with you as well and work on these things. So.
Awesome. And I also want to just echo some of the thoughts there on, what you can do. Like Devlin had said, give us a call first. Just because you're not able to get in contact with somebody else and you get upset and you start, bouncing on their party, my party, how we're not doing anything. Sometimes we're grown men here. We're blue collar type of people here. I'm not, I don't know much about, Instagram, and I don't know much about, Twitter and all this stuff, or X or whatever it's called now. I don't know a lot about it. But what I do know is if you're going to go and you're going to slam me, I'm going to ask you, if you have a problem with me, why didn't you call me? I'll reach out to you. Let's be men here.
Yeah.
I personally like that type of a relationship. If I have an issue with any of the senators, I know I can walk over to them and say, hey, do you mind if we have a conversation? They appreciate that before they get up and they start slamming me on a podcast of some sort, or on Facebook. But what the other thing is, I wasn't a business owner. So a business owner, I really don't know, what, they deal with from day in and day out. I know what labor people from the trades are dealing with. And I still get phone calls, whether it's unemployment compensation, they're dealing with this, they're not getting a phone call back. And, we were dealing with it, heavily during the pandemic, because everything was horrific back then. And you try to do whatever you can to help them out. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes it might only take that day. Sometimes it may take a little bit longer. But most of the time, they'll reach out, sending either a thank you letter, reaching out to your, staffers, thanking us for helping them out. All it takes sometimes is a phone call. And like Devlin said, call him.
And I'll send you over to John Kane's office. That's right.
That was great. That was perfect.
Yeah.
That's how we get along.
Yeah, I would also mention too, like John brought something up about unemployment. A lot of people, when they call, they think that, that bill, it's everything to them. But, that's something that we're working on in addition to all those state agencies that we're representing to all of our other constituents. We represent 250,000 people apiece. And so, our staff and ourselves, we're dealing with many different aspects of state government at the time. So, we'd love to sit down and hear from you and let us know how we could make some of these bills better.
Yeah. Absolutely right. And I think one of the things, we're dealing with the winter right now. I think probably the most things we're dealing with is potholes.
Yeah.
It's like I hate the winter now. As much as I used to like it, I hate it now. But they're probably
and frozen pipes. I don't know if you have those problems out in Philly, but yeah, frozen pipes in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. The infrastructure needs to be updated. Yeah. Plumbing and Payne called Johnny Kane.
There you go.
Something like that
Nice.
sounds like a campaign slogan.
It was going to be
Yeah.
well, if I was ever going to be in business, that was going to be my slogan.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Nice.
Yeah. Now my new one is I'm going to be
I
writing a
have.
book. My new one is I'm going to be writing a book from breaking laws to making laws.
Mm.
There you go. Nice.
Uh,
I have one last question for both. I don't know what Chris has left. My question for Senator Kane is a yes or no. I got invited to my first Flyer game. I'm going in a couple weeks. Do I, as a Penguin fan, do I need a bodyguard to go with
No.
me?
no,
okay?
not the Flyers.
I think anytime you go to Philly,
Okay,
you should
all right.
get a bodyguard.
Yes.
I would only think.
and then
I think really it's only the Eagles and the Phillies. The Flyers. Yeah, I mean it's so expensive to get into a game now. You don't have your blue collar 700 level Veterans Stadium fans there anymore. It can be a rough crowd, but you ain't gonna worry about that
You
at the
mean
Flyers.
the guys that threw snowballs at Santa aren't going to be at the Flyers game
No,
this week,
no,
right? Okay.
no.
All right.
No.
I saw a video of that. It looked like a young John Kane that was throwing those snowballs.
No, he was right-handed. I'm left-handed.
Uh,
the old Southpaw. The old.
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say, John, we might have breaking
and my
news here
question-
today, right?
There you go.
Nah,
There you go. I'm going to bring my number. I'm going to bring your number. I'll call you. If I get
I'd
an
rather
my question for
I never really wanted to watch the Eagles there. I'd rather be at home watching it because you can see instant replay and all that and stay warm.
That's true.
there you go. Nice. Well, I'll bring your number in case I get in any trouble. I'll call you when I'm out there.
All right, you got it. I got connections.
All right. All right. and Senator Robinson, my mom grew up in Lawrenceville, and we've had this podcast now for 4 years, and we've never had a Fritzy Zivic mention in the 4 years that we've had the podcast. Can you explain to our audience who the greatest boxer of all time is? I mean, who is Fritzy Zivic? There you go.
absolutely, the Pittsburgh Windmill. Fritzy Zivic was an iron worker, and he was from Lawrenceville, and he was welterweight champion of the world. And my grandfather was in his corner during his fight with Sugar Ray Robinson. And my grandfather always talked about Sugar Ray Robinson was the greatest fighter that ever lived, pound for pound.
Wow.
And Sugar Ray defeated Fritzy Zivic, but Fritzy Zivic gave him a great run, and it was always considered one of his best opponents. So he came back and they fought again, and Sugar Ray ended up defeating him. But a lot of fighters that would schedule a fight with Sugar Ray Robinson would always look to Fritzy Zivic's fight and study that fight because he got so many good shots in on Sugar Ray. So he's one of the best fighters that ever come out of Pittsburgh, and he's considered to be one of the toughest guys for sure to ever come out of Pittsburgh. And if you ever look at an old photo of him, try to find one at the side profile, his nose is completely flat into his face. So.
Don, we might have to change the focus of our podcast from construction to sports.
That's right.
I mean, we've gone
Yes,
from Eagles, we've talked about football, basketball, or baseball, hockey, boxing. I mean, the only thing we didn't talk about was basketball. So,
yeah, we're not going to
next
go there.
episode, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that Fritzy Zivic knowledge. That was awesome.
Yeah, if you're ever in the Capitol too, you can come by. You'll see a lot of pictures of Fritzy Zivic hanging in my office, and you'll even be able to see his boxing gloves as well.
Wow.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome.
That's added, but that's
Very
bonus
nice.
features for our listeners, right? To get all of this. But gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today, and your input has been extremely valuable and helpful. So, thank you, and I'm sure we're going to have another conversation at some point here in the near future.
No, thank you
Looking
for
forward to
having
it.
us. Yeah, absolutely. And before I get off, I just want to say, go Birds.
Now that they won,
Thanks, guys.
I'm back to being a Steelers fan again. So we'll be back next season.
There you go.
All good.
We go.
Thank you, guys. Have a
Thanks.
good one.
Thank you for joining the Building PA podcast. To stay up to date, follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and visit buildingpapodcast.com to subscribe to upcoming shows. Thanks for listening.